What I encourage everyone to get back to is intuitive eating. How would you feed your 5-year-old self? How did your 5-year-old self eat? And finding freedom with food. Oh great, you can see baby cactus today. Amazing. I'm a little warm. Hello everyone, today we are drinking water. What is your favorite water bottle? I have not purchased a new water bottle in years. I have not gotten any free water bottles since I don't remember when. But I have two go-tos. I have my blender bottle and then I have a Nalgene. And the Nalgene can hold more than my blender bottle, but my blender bottle is great for one-handed activities like driving when I can use my thumb to pop the top open so I can drink from it. Is plastic the best for a water bottle? Probably not, but you know what? It doesn't break. It is what it is. So, I have some books to talk about later. But today, we are talking about intuitive eating. What is intuitive eating? So, WebMD, intuitive eating is a simple idea. It means that you make peace with all types of food. Unlike traditional diets that restrict or ban certain foods, intuitive eating requires you to stop looking at food as good or bad. Instead, you listen to your body and eat what feels right for you. You might think this means you just eat whatever you want anytime you want. That's not the case. Experts say intuitive eating means tapping into your body's natural ability to tell when you're hungry or satisfied. When you eat intuitively, you also let go of the idea that you need to lose or gain weight so you can look a certain way. The idea is to help you focus on foods that work best for your overall physical and mental health. And a few headlines for how they say to eat intuitively. 1, reject diets. 2, eat when you're hungry. 3, pay attention to fullness. 4, choose foods that make you feel good. And 5, respect your emotions. So, something that has become important to me since being on a journey to heal from binge eating and not be obsessed with food is intuitive eating. And we have strayed so far from that. I mean, think of majority of children, your nieces, your nephews, your young cousins, your friends' kids, your grandkids, nieces, did I say that? Nieces, nephews, small children. They tell you when they're hungry. They stop eating when they're full. They still enjoy treats. They don't eat what they don't want to eat. They eat or ask for what they want to eat. And so understanding that we have to kind of mold children to show them that it's important to eat fruits and veggies and the nutrient-dense, good-for-you foods, and that sugary, like candy and desserts, are treats. They're not supposed to be the bulk of our diet. So yes, there is something to be said about it's not just eating when you're hungry and stopping eating when you're full, but what you eat. So let's start with eating when we're hungry. We eat when we're hungry for the most part, or we want to eat when we're hungry, most of us. So that part we have down pat. Stopping when we're full has escaped us. Like that, it can be very difficult for some people, especially when you are at a buffet, you're at a party where there's an open food table. There's times when we eat special foods. Say you don't eat a lot of pizza, so you go out for pizza, so you want to enjoy it while you're having it, because who knows the next time you're going to be eating pizza. When we have desserts, usually dessert comes after the main meal, but you're full from the main meal, but you, quote, make room for dessert because you want it, even though your belly is telling you, hey, I'm full. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that, like having a few bites of dessert to satisfy that sweet tooth, even though you were full. But if you're already full and you decide to have 3 servings of dessert, is that the best option for your body? So thinking about eating intuitively, I think that's one of the hardest parts, is listening to your body and stopping when you're full. Because our brains, our hearts, I don't know what part of our being the gluttonous part of our being wants to indulge. So aside from eating when you're hungry, stopping when you're full, honoring your body's hunger cues, it's also important what we eat. Now, before I started filming this, I was hungry for lunch, but I just needed a snack so that I had time to film this, and then I'm going to eat lunch afterwards. I was craving protein. Now, I don't know if other people notice this or do this, but do you crave protein? I understand why I was craving protein because I had very little protein in my breakfast. I had 2 energy balls that had oatmeal and chia seeds and flax seeds and chocolate chips and peanut butter and honey in them. And then I had a smoothie that was spinach and mango and banana and chia seeds and a little bit of almond butter, water, almond milk, ice. Not a lot of protein. So you may not think you crave protein, but I also crave savory things. And so when I crave savory things, I attribute that to me craving protein, because usually it's like a really, usually like cheesy or meaty dish or food is what I'm craving. So if we take the time to slow down and actually pay attention to our cravings, that may cue you in on what your body wants. And by what your body wants, that may be what your body needs. So I am no expert in this, but I am the only person in my body. And when I listen to it, now I'm not talking about sweets and sugar, because yes, I crave sweets and sugar. I have a sweet tooth. But there are times when I crave savory foods. There are times when I crave fresh foods, so light foods. There are times when I crave carbs. So when I do crave fresh, savory carbs, that gives me an idea. Okay, I'm craving something fresh. Maybe I can have a fruit, some veggies, or maybe just incorporate a fruit or some veggies into a snack, incorporate some veggies into my lunch. Or if I'm craving a carb, do I want something with rice? Do I want a stir fry? Do I want something with potatoes? Do I want to make baked potato wedges with dinner? Do I want a pita with hummus? It's important to focus on what we're eating, because the idea of intuitive eating is not just eating what you want, because there may be times where you just want to eat Oreos. You just want to eat cinnamon rolls. You just want to eat pizza. You just want to eat pasta. But it's important for us to be the adult, be the caregiver of our inner child. That's the way I think of it. I think of it like, how would I feed my 5-year-old self? I would give her a variety of food, diverse foods, which gives me diverse nutrients. So fruits, veggies, maybe pasta, maybe rice, maybe whole grain bread, good proteins, whether it be beef, pork, turkey, eggs, cheese, but also letting my 5-year-old self enjoy treats, a piece of candy, a cookie, a brownie, and not, like WebMD said, labeling it as good or bad. I've said this in a previous episode or two, not to think of foods as good or bad, but as more nutrient dense and valuable for my body versus something that is just for me to enjoy. Now, as I mentioned earlier, young children are pretty good at eating intuitively, especially when it comes to asking for food when they're hungry and then stopping when they're full, even if they still have food on their plate. I think something that happens is parents, caregivers encourage us, because we were all children at some point, to finish our plate. And sometimes that's okay. Sometimes kids are just picky and they are going to be hungry half hour from now and they just don't want to eat what's there, or you don't want them to be wasteful, or whatever the reason may be. So I get that. For me growing up, if I didn't want to eat anything else, it was always 2 more bites. Just eat 2 more bites and then you can go. And so I think that was a healthy way. Like, I didn't have to clean my plate, but have a couple more bites. Because as parents, caregivers, you see how much the child is eating and you know how much they normally eat. So you have an idea. But I also understand there are times when children are encouraged to eat everything on your plate. And so as we get older and there's nothing to say otherwise, like you grew up, like you clean your plate, that's the way it is. And unless someone introduces it to you or you take it upon yourself to start eating intuitively, listening to your body and wrapping up your meal when you are full, there's a very good chance that you continue to just clean your plate, eat everything you're given. Additionally, in society, we have times of day that we eat. You eat breakfast. You eat lunch at a given time. You eat dinner at such and such a time. And one of the big ones is lunch. Like if you are not homeschooled, you go to school, you eat when your lunch hour is. I remember, I don't know how I did it, going through grade school and high school, years when I didn't have a snack time, eating breakfast between 6 and 6:30 and then waiting till like 11:30, 12 to eat lunch. No way. My breakfast was always cold cereal. I was hungry before lunchtime. And so that's a big part of intuitive eating too, is like honor your body when you're hungry. And when you're in school, that can be more difficult. Sometimes something that happens when you don't honor your body and eat when you're hungry is when you finally get to eat, you overeat because you're like, I'm so hungry, I can eat more food. When in reality, your stomach is the same size when you're super hungry as it is when you're just plain hungry. And the opposite can be true. If maybe you had a mid-morning snack and then it's technically your lunchtime and like this is the only time you get to eat. Like you're like, well, this is the only time I get to eat and I'm not really hungry, but I'm going to eat because I don't want to be hungry later. And I realize that can be difficult if you are in school, if you're in a job when you have to take your lunch at a certain time, which is unfortunate. And I understand that, but that's just the way it is for some people. So my encouragement is when it comes to eating when you're hungry, stopping when you're full, practice that when you can. Starting in the morning. If you wake up and you are not hungry right when you wake up, it's okay to honor your body. And I would say take breakfast with you or take a snack with you. And then in an hour, 2 hours when you are hungry, you can eat. Something that also may play into why you're not hungry in the morning is how close to bedtime did you eat and how much did you eat before bedtime. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. Some people aren't able to eat until close before they go to bed. And then when they wake up, they're just not hungry because they ate so close to bedtime. I understand that. But then I'm big on snacks. Some people are like, you shouldn't snack. I am with intuitive eating. Some people are going to end up snacking. I am one of those people. I go between like 2 and 4 hours between eating normally because I typically don't eat large meals because it's just too much. I'm uncomfortably full if I eat too much. That's just me and my body, how it works. So I try to wait until I'm hungry in the morning to eat breakfast. There are some days where I'm not hungry, but I will just eat something because I know I'm going to be hungry. And then I always have snacks available with me, whether I'm going to work, whether I'm at home, and I will take the time to compile a decent snack. And then once I'm hungry for lunchtime, my work allows me a flexible lunch hour. So I will just wait until I am hungry and take my lunch hour. And then if I'm hungry again before supper time, I may have a second snack and then supper time. And then there's probably going to be an evening snack. Something that can be difficult for me, and I know for other people, is snacking before bedtime. There can be that lull if you're just like hanging out, especially like in front of the TV, where your hands are idle and You may like the show, but sometimes it's nice just to be like eating while you're watching something. May not be the healthiest thing, but one thing you can do is not eat in front of the TV. If you are truly trying to heal your relationship with food and honing in your intuitive eating or mastering your intuitive eating, don't multitask when you're eating. So separate yourself from the TV, go have a snack, and then you can come back. That's just a personal suggestion. Now, when it comes to what you are eating, this is just as important. In the morning, you may prefer to eat cinnamon rolls, and if cinnamon rolls aren't an option, you'll be like, I'm just not going to eat. That's not how this works. If you're hungry in the morning, I will say this. It is very easy to just want to eat what you want to eat and get stuck in that rut. For me, it can become a rut. If I spend a lot of time eating a lot of baked goods, a lot of fatty, salty foods, pasta, pizza, it can be very difficult for me to pull myself back and say, hey, we need to increase the quality and the value of the food we're eating. So make a teriyaki veggie stir fry. Have some fruit with your snack. Have some veggies with your snack. Make sure you're drinking enough water. Put some veggies in that quesadilla, not just cheese. Have some oatmeal for breakfast. It's very easy to just settle into eating the mac and cheese, the pizza, the pasta, the desserts. It's very easy to stay there, but does that make your body feel good? Are those foods adding value to your body? Or are they more for you to just enjoy? I understand we cannot always pick what we eat, especially if you're still living under your parents' roof or you're just in a situation where you don't always get to decide what food is available. So in those situations, make the best choices you can. And when you have control over what foods you can eat, buy, stock up on in your pantry, cook, do so. Going back to what we eat, focus on wholesome foods. Now, wholesome foods does not mean boring foods. You can make fruits and veggies super delicious. You can make potatoes and rice super delicious. You can make chicken super delicious. Like, it doesn't have to be plain broccoli, plain rice, plain chicken. No, use those spices. Make those sauces. Use butter. I am here for it. Eating intuitively and eating well does not mean eating boring and bland food. So that may force you to go outside of your comfort zone. Look for new recipes. Cook for yourself. Try new ingredients because you can find nutrient-rich foods that taste good. And when you do, you're more likely to eat them. And when you do, your body is most likely going to feel a lot better than if you're just eating cake and candy. I know that's an exaggeration, but if you drink a lot of pop, if you eat a lot of sweets, if you eat a lot of beige food, that's what I think of, beige food. Your body may be used to that, and maybe you don't know how good your body can feel when you start to eat the rainbow, meaning trying new fruits and veggies. Now, I feel like I'm starting to ramble, and I don't want to do that. So, intuitive eating, eating when you're hungry, stopping when you're full, focusing on what you eat, prioritizing nutrient-dense foods, and like I said, try new things. It's okay if you don't like certain veggies, you don't have to eat them. It's okay if you don't like certain dishes, you don't have to eat them. There are so many recipes out there. Save ones that you like, and you can incorporate them into like a monthly calendar of meals and snacks. With that being said, that intuitive eating does not mean you can never eat your favorite foods ever again. That's not what this is. Intuitive eating is, like I said, your 5-year-old self. You want them to enjoy sweets, and you want them to be able to enjoy ice cream, and you want them to be able to have cake on their birthday, ice cream on a hot day, candy on Halloween. You want your 5-year-old self to enjoy food of all kinds, but you don't want your 5-year-old self to be obsessed with food. You don't want that to be their entire life. Now, this does not mean like someone who just loves food, they love to research it, try new recipes, cook, eat. That is all fine and dandy. That is great. But your 5-year-old self, do they just want to eat candy and sweets? Would they rather eat than go play outside or read a book? Do they turn their nose up at water or milk and will only take pop or juice? There is a healthy balance. Nothing needs to be cut out. And as you prioritize your hunger cues and you prioritize nutrient-dense foods, you may notice how your body feels. When you eat a meal and you stop when you feel full or just after you feel full, whereas before you may have cleaned your plate and maybe it was just so good you went back for seconds and then you ate it all and you're like, oh, I'm so full. If you are to start stopping when you feel full at first, how much more energy, how much more ambition, how much more can you get done, or do you want to get done when your body isn't so sluggish from being weighed down with so much food? When you start incorporating more nutrient-dense foods into your diet, into your meals, into your snacks, how do you feel after you've eaten? Do you feel a little lighter? Even if you ate maybe the same amount of food, how does your body feel? And then there's a mindset shift too of it being okay to have dessert. And this may not be your situation, but there are some people where it's like there's a guilt that comes with eating candy, pop, chips, that you're like, oh no, I'm not supposed to be eating this. And sometimes when we have that attitude towards food, that's why we get the biggest option and we eat as much as we can because we're like, I'm only doing this once, so I'm going to go big or go home, so I'm going to go big. And then you feel guilty about doing it afterward. Whereas what if it's just a nice treat? You get to enjoy it, and maybe you get to enjoy something sweet every day or after lunch and after dinner. And it's just something you get to look forward to. And you know you can have it again the next day. Like, it's okay. I'm just going to have something to satisfy my sweet tooth. I don't have to go crazy because I know it's going to be there and I can have it again the next day. Same thing with even non-sweet foods, just like those fun meals that you don't get every day, that you don't eat every day, that are rich and luxurious foods. You know they're no longer off limits. You start to prioritize nutrient-dense foods, but you also incorporate the mac and cheese. Like, for instance, mac and cheese, it's super cheesy and super creamy, and it's like, it doesn't have the reputation of being a health food as society deems foods as being healthy or not healthy. But today we're not doing that. Nutrient dense, foods that you get to enjoy. But there is one meal combination that I'll make, and it's broccoli, roasted or sauteed with garlic and onion and salt and pepper and sometimes Parmesan. And then I'll have turkey kielbasa that I'll either sear or I'll roast with the broccoli. And then I'll make mac and cheese. So I'm getting protein from my mac and cheese and a little bit from my broccoli, but also my kielbasa. And then I'm getting my nutrient-dense broccoli. I'm getting some roughage in my gut. And then I get my carb along with the protein in the mac and cheese, and I get to enjoy it. I don't feel bad. I'm not like, oh, I can only have a little bit. Like I said, it's all about balance. Intuitive eating is a journey for a lot of us, I think, because we've been told there's foods that are good and there are foods that are bad. We are told this is what time of day you're supposed to eat, but you're not supposed to eat between these times or after this time. We've been told clean our plate, don't waste, which, yes, but I'm someone who saves leftovers. So there's one solution. There's rules about when you should eat dessert and when you shouldn't eat dessert. And so for us, this may be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years or more in the making of these habits of what's okay and what's not. And it takes time to undo old habits and to start listening back to our body. Like I said, we're good at knowing when we're hungry, and we can tell when we're full, but we don't always listen to ourselves. Sometimes we eat so fast that by the time we feel full, we're actually more full than we realize. And so another tip may be to slow down and actually enjoy your food. Take the time. Like I said earlier, Don't have your evening snack while you're watching TV. Take a 5-10 minute break, eat it away from the TV, and then come back. No, I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. If you want to have popcorn while you're watching your movie at home, by all means, do it. That's part of just getting to enjoy life. But having a healthy relationship with food and being able to control our own actions and not have food be in control of us. Like, oh, I just couldn't stop eating. It was so good. I think it's important for many reasons in all aspects of our lives to be able to control our impulses in our decision making, including food, how we eat, what we eat, when we eat. Intuitive eating can be hard, especially at first. Like for me, when I first started trying to eat intuitively, there was a time when I kind of just had to let myself eat what I wanted. And that means I wasn't always eating veggies and fruits and whole grains. There was a time where, like, for me, part of undoing all of the rules that society and myself had put on myself about food and eating, I had to undo some of that and like just let myself eat the ice cream, let myself have the sugar, let myself have the carbs, let myself have the quote bad foods that I had been stopping myself from eating for so long, which sounds unhealthy. And my body probably didn't enjoy all of that because I probably wasn't getting a lot of the most amount of nutrients, the most amount of fiber, all of that jazz. But in doing that, that helped me become okay with just eating what I wanted. I already knew what foods were good for me. Fruits, veggies, whole grains, meats. I knew what was good for me, but I was at war with myself about when and how much and what fun foods I could enjoy. How many Oreos I could eat and not be mad at myself. How many Oreos I could eat and it not be the end of the world. Being able to have a pack of Oreos in the house and not demolish the whole pack in 2 or 3 days. Like allowing myself to have 3, 4, 5 Oreos every single night and it being okay. So intuitive eating is very physical, but it's also very mental. Feeling your hunger cues and your fullness cues. Being the adult to your 5-year-old self of, okay, yes, we can have a brownie, but we also need to eat our veggies. We also need to eat our eggs. We also need to eat our toast, whatever it may be. And then the mental shift of the discipline, cultivating the discipline to make the decision of, I'm going to eat these nutrient-dense foods. The mental decision to, okay, I'm going to stop eating now. The mental decision of, it's okay to eat the foods I enjoy and not feel guilty about it. You should not feel guilty about eating food. Even if you ate poorly, even if you ate too much, you can start over. You can start over right now. Just don't feel bad about it. You are in control. We don't always make the best decisions, but keep trying to make the better decisions for yourself, for your body, for your mind when it comes to food. So, with that being said, that is my thoughts and feelings on intuitive eating, and that is my goal. Am I good at it? No, not always. Am I better at it? Yes, absolutely. And so that's what I encourage everyone to get back to is intuitive eating. Like, how would you feed your 5-year-old self? How did your 5-year-old self eat? And finding freedom with food. If you guys have any opinions on that and you're watching on YouTube, feel free to drop me a comment. If you like this episode, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. If you're liking my content, go ahead and subscribe. Or if you're listening on podcast, follow and rate and review if you would so kindly do so. But now we're going to get on to some fun topics, non-intuitive eating topics. And today it's books. I need some water first. It is a beautiful day outside. Sun is shining. Skies are blue. All right. So I have 2 new books to talk to you guys about today. If you guys like physical books, but you don't always like spending $10 to $20 on a new book, paperback, don't sleep on your thrift stores, on your half-price books, on your Goodwill. Several weeks ago, I was running some errands and I popped into Goodwill, and they have a book wall. And their paperbacks, they're selling their paperbacks for 79 cents a paperback. I think the hardcovers were like $129 or $159. I got 5 paperback books for under $5. And one of them is Amy Tan's The Joy Luck Club. So I had heard about this book. It's a New York Times bestseller. It's a novel. I feel like it's considered a work of literary merit, meaning it's one of those books you could have read for AP Lit. I don't know. But when I first started it, I was sitting in the parking lot waiting for something, and it was just taking a long time. And this was after I had gone to Goodwill, and I had not brought the book I had been reading at the time with me, and I was kind of perturbed with myself. So I'm like, you know what? I'll start reading one of these books. So I picked up The Joy Luck Club and I started reading it, and I wasn't really feeling it. So I'm like, it's one of those books where like I knew I wanted to read it, but I was feeling like I wasn't going to enjoy reading it. Well, after about 40 pages, that's when I started to get into it. So I'm on page 95 right now out of 288. It doesn't look like a 288 page book, but it is. And so I'm getting excited about it. I don't know, would you call this just literary fiction? It's just, there's a young woman of Chinese heritage. She's in her late 20s, I think. And her mom just passed away, but her mom was part of a group of Chinese women. They're in America now, but her mom and the 3 other women came over from China. And so them and their husbands get together, like, I don't know if it's once a week, once a month, whatever. And they eat and they play games and they chat and blah, blah, blah. And so right now, since the main character's mom passed away, she is taking her mom's spot at the game table with the 3 other women. Is it 3 other women or 4 other women? I can't remember. And right now we're going chapter by chapter the 3 or 4 other women at the game table. We're learning about their past. So I'm just going to read the synopsis because I feel like I'm not explaining this very well. I feel like I don't know what the book is about right now. And this is unfortunately a common thing with works of literary merit, is just you're asking yourself, what is the meaning and how is the meaning created? It's not like a crime drama thriller where it's just like whodunit, which I also enjoy. So in 1949, 4 Chinese women, so 3 other women at the game table, recent immigrants to San Francisco, begin meeting to eat dim sum, play mahjong, M-A-H-J-O-N-G, mahjong. I'm sure you guys have seen the game, either possibly on the computer, maybe not, and talk. United in shared loss and hope, they call themselves the Joy Luck Club. With wit and sensitivity, Amy Tan, the author, examines the sometimes painful, often tender, and always deep connection between these 4 women and their American-born daughters. As each reveals her secrets, trying to unravel the truth about her life, the strings become more tangled, more entwined. If you've read this, let me know. Did you like it? I'm just glad that I'm enjoying it more now than I did in the first 15 pages. And then a genre that I'm basically always going to like because this is just who I am. We're reading an Agatha Christie. And then there were none. So this synopsis, should I read it to you? 10 strangers are lured to an isolated island mansion off the Devon coast by a mysterious U.N. Owen. At dinner, a recorded message accuses each of them in turn of having a guilty secret, and by the end of the night, one of the guests is dead. Stranded by a violent storm and haunted by a nursery rhyme counting down one by one, as one by one, they begin to die. Which among them is the killer, and will any of them survive? Now, just reading that back before I started reading this, it made me think of a movie I have seen or I started to watch. Now, I looked it up. This has been made into a movie decades ago, but the movie I watched it seemed a lot more modern than a 1970s movie. And so I don't know, I do not know the name of it, but there's a bunch of strangers on an island all together. They don't know each other and they start dropping off. But it's not called And Then There Were None, unless it is and I just am not finding it. So if you watch my or listen to my podcast, I had been reading Death and Croissants, which had an edge of humor to it and wit. It wasn't as heavy as people dying, strangers in a mansion, an unknown voice accusing them of crime. And so it's not like super thriller like horror, but it's fascinating. This is my first Agatha Christie book I am reading. A couple of my friends are huge fans. And so she's the queen of mystery. So I feel like I'm just going to have to, there's so much to read. There's so many books out there. I was going to say, I'm just going to have to read more Agatha Christie, and maybe I will, but I have a lot of more books that I need to read before buying more. But would I like to buy more? Yes, absolutely. So those are the two books I'm reading for fun right now. I am still continuing to read The Intimidable Jeeves. Like I said, I only read one chapter, one short story per sitting, because it's not one of those books that you can get like super deep and connected to the characters. You're not like sucked into it. Like I mentioned before, it's kind of like an early 1900s sitcom, but in text instead of on TV. So my time is up. If you guys want another episode from me, go ahead and click here on screen. I will see you guys there, and thank you for watching.